I'm all mic'd up and everything. Do we have like microphone or are we? Okay. First of all, thank you guys for having me out. It's kind of strange. I just kind of got hit with a ton of emotion because, 10, 15, 20 years ago, I was kind of in your spot, and I can't believe where I am today. So thank you very much, for coming out. I may be a little brash at sometimes, and I apologize if my language sucks. And you may not like me very much or whatever, but you can't deny that I love what I do, all right? And I've worked very hard, just like most of you have, where you just kind of grinding. I hate that word now. Whenever I think of grind, I always think of Brutal Truth. You know the band? Anyone know that band? But you just kind of work, and then it's amazing when one day you look up and you see what you've done and some of the people that I've influenced. So it's a great honor for me, for you guys to come out. Makes me feel like I didn't waste all my time. I always like to tell the story that when I was in junior high and high school, all I really wanted to do was lift weights and read and write. And everyone always told me, you're never going to do anything with that, And it's just nice to throw some sand in those fuckers' faces. So I still got like a chip on my shoulder no matter what I do. I always feel like the world's against me. It can get kind of tiring sometimes, but I think that's really helped me. Okay, what I'm going to talk about today, and I want you guys to ask questions throughout. So if there's anything that you guys want answered, this is your time to get them answered, okay? So let's just make that clear. I know we have like a Q&A afterwards. Okay, I don't know how long I'm going to speak for. I didn't really time this. But there's going to be a lot of Q&A, I hope, throughout this. And thank you to Dave, by the way. I just saw him over here. He changed his shirt. My wife's like, Dave's got to love this. He doesn't have to talk. So thank you, Dave. Okay, so how I kind of structured this talk was I started volunteering at the high school. First as a football coach, and then within like a week, I was a strength coach. It's funny how that works out, because Dave told me, he's like, that's just a matter of time, So what this did was, because I work with both the JV or freshmen who are incredibly young. I'm sure you guys work with some athletes here and there or know them. You kind of lose sight of what the target audience a lot of times is, or who you're talking to, until you go coach some freshmen. You realize they have no muscle mass, no coordination, okay? And obviously I coach, juniors, seniors, and so on, who are a little more developed. So this talk was kind of based on like how I structure their training, the off-season stuff. We can go with in-season stuff, but what this really does is give you a microcosm or an overview of how I structure all the training. So it doesn't really change a ton depending on the sport or individual. We just tweak things here and there, okay? Now, if anyone's heard Dave and I's table talk, we talked about when Dave and I would do seminars, Dave would always challenge the audience and say stuff like, you have to develop your own personal philosophy. What is your philosophy? And I can guarantee 100% of the time, if Dave called on someone, they would never have an answer. And so I'm up there, I'm like, yeah, Dave's right. And I'm like, shit, I don't even know what mine is, right? I mean, that's just the way it goes. You just kind of get caught up in the mess of stuff. And nothing really solidified in my mind until I wrote the first 531 book. And I wrote the entire book, and I reread it, a million times. And I said, holy shit, this is my philosophy, or my principles, I call them. And in the table talk, Dave basically did the same thing. He said, he'll sit down with a young coach and said, just explain your program to me and what you believe. And you might have like this massive piece of paper, it covers the entire desk. And he may have a philosophy or a principle, but doesn't realize it until you write it down. So if you guys are in this position where you're want to be a professional, or however you want to state that, the best thing you can do is write your own book, or write your own. It doesn't have to be read by anyone but yourself. And what that does is just kind of open things up to you, and you can see like, now, this is really what I believe in. I always think, and I've seen this so many times, especially when I first started EFS, is no one really, and I call it, you got to throw your spear down. You have to take a stand at some time for what you believe in. I don't care what it is, but when I mentioned this in the table talk, when kettlebells became massive, you guys remember that? Like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, is that right? Is that when yeah, that's when I started working. It seemed like everyone was just jumping on the kettlebell bandwagon. And they just completely dismiss everything they've learned and just, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And what the smart people did was kind of sit back a little bit, look at it, and eventually find a way to fit it in within their program. Does that make sense to everyone? And you can see it with every new wave of, you see it with diets. Like diets are incredibly cyclical. You guys ever remember Ori Hoffmeyer? He used to write for Penthouse. That's how he got his start. He did the warrior diet. You guys, anyone remember that? Anyone? No? You shaking your head? Do you?
I talked to a few people in our facility that they're all military background.
Do you know what the basis of it was? It's you don't eat anything until the night, and then you just get all your calories at night. Okay. 10 years later, does that sound like a familiar diet program? All right. The Zone diet came out, and then you had like the South Beach diet, which was kind of the same basic thing, and then you have kind of a paleo diet, which is a little stricter, but it's the same basic idea. So everything just gets recycled and recycled. If you stay in this game long enough, you get to laugh a lot, because you have someone new. You're not going to believe this thing. It's a foam thing. It's a circular, and you just roll it on your right here. It's going to be in 10 years. That's what's going to happen, and I guarantee it. So that's how this business works. So, all right, let's get this thing started. I'm just yammering. Does anyone have any questions, by the way? To start off with, anything? All right. Okay. Like I said, I'm helping out with the high school. Okay, and I started thinking about. Because I had some people ask me some questions on my forum about the training and whatnot. And I'll give you an example with the JV kids who are mostly freshmen. Now, some of these freshmen are tiny. Like if you saw them walking down the street, you'd never think they play football, okay? My whole goal is to get the JV ready for the off season. So I call it get all the teaching out of the way first so I can only do the coaching. There's a difference between teaching and coaching, okay? So my main goal with those kids, and they can tell you if they remember anything, because Jesus, right? You tell a kid one thing and we call it, we're gonna squat the weakness out of you, all right? So we do a lot, we just squat. Anytime we're in there, we squat. We started off with you guys know what a dumbbell squat is, where you hold it here? I saw someone doing it here today, all right? And what I did was, we did squats and push-ups for 30 minutes. That's all we did. So you do 10 or 20 squats, push-ups, 10 or 20, it was 30 minutes, that's all they did. They hated me. So what we did was I set a standard that was pretty high. And in order to earn the right to put a barbell on your back, you have to do a 50-pound dumbbell for 50 straight reps, all right? One, this showed them that they could actually do something that they thought wouldn't be possible, right? Because as soon as they pick up the 50-pound dumbbell, like, oh my God, no way. And the second reason why I did this was so they can learn how to work hard. And there has to be a purpose to working hard. You can't just thrash a kid into the ground for no reason. But they need to learn how to push themselves a little bit. The way I like to say it is you don't know where the line is or where the edge is until you step off. Because a lot of people are worried about overtraining, but sometimes I don't think they've trained even enough to even know where that point is. But anyway, after 12 workouts, every kid did it. And it became a big challenge. Kids were getting in each other's faces like, what the hell, man? You don't think, getting upset that their buddy couldn't do it or didn't have the balls to do it. So within 12 workouts, all of them did it. Now, I started thinking about this, and I posted this on the forum, that if I told the general public, everything that you guys read, that a 14-year-old kid has to squat a 50-pound dumbbell for 50 total reps without stopping, what would they say? Honestly. Is that too high of a standard, you think? Yeah, they'd make up some excuse. You know what the standard is for varsity now? The 100-pound dumbbell for 50 reps. And everyone's trying to get in on it, you know. So one of the things I did was I raised their expectations level of what they could do personally. And I think that's a huge thing, not just in sports, but now they can set goals for life. Whether or not that carries over, that's kind of up to them. But that was kind of my main goal. All right, another point I came up with was, and Dave and I have seen this many, many times, is don't coach or program something that you don't know. And I think it's easier to get, you know, if so-and-so is doing power cleans or something. I can't coach the power clean very well, so I just leave it out. It's not gonna make or break my program, but I think a lot of people get caught up in trying to do the latest and greatest without any experience. If you can't coach a barbell squat, just don't barbell squat them. Just find a way around it. I just see that way too often. You can watch, you guys have probably seen a million YouTube videos, right? People lifting, and they're at like a gym with a coach, and you're like, geez, this is what they're coaching? And it doesn't have to be perfect. Here's Dave with the form issue. I'm over on the other end. I'm 80% right, and you're good to go with me. I'm not coaching lifters, I'm coaching athletes. But at some point, you gotta take some responsibility of how your lifters lift, or how your athletes lift. All right, so if you don't understand something, like for example, I never really worked with kettlebells before. You know, I farted around with them. And then when I came with the back surgery, I just needed something to do, and it was pretty easy. And ever since doing that, I've learned how to take them and program them into the 5-3-1 program. But before, I just kind of threw out some general ideas, and I always admitted, listen, I don't know that much. All right. So again, if you don't know it, just forget it. That doesn't mean you can't learn about it, but don't try to force a, you know, what do they call it, a square peg in a round hole? Is that it, or is it the opposite way around? Something like that? Okay. Another thing that has helped me out a ton just in the time that I've been there was I'm incredibly organized. Every kid has their own workout. I make notes on each workout sheet. I have a spreadsheets for each and every lift that they've done to compare and contrast over time. All right. Does anyone here work like in a high school or college as a strength coach? Anyone? Do you? What's that? You teach. Well, even teaching, you have to have like a way to show the administration you're getting your shit done, right? You're supposed to. Yeah, right? And so all this does is, one, it makes my job easier, because if I'm completely organized, I always like to say, control what you can control in life, because everything else is just absolute chaos, right? Anyone who's been living on this planet for 30 or 40 years, you can only do a little bit, and then everything else is just random chaotic events that fuck everything up in your life, right? For example, you can always control what you eat. You can kind of control when you go to bed. This is just getting a little bit deeper. Pay your bills on time. All the shit that you can control, do control, because everything else is always gonna be a mess. So I figure, you know, there's always gonna be kids late, there's always gonna be, you know, scheduling conflicts, all this stuff. You gotta get the weight room ready, this and that. So I just got as organized as I possibly can be for every single workout. So all I gotta do is walk in, I have the sheets, I have the notes, I take the time, 10 or 15 minutes after we lift, I make all the notes, I plug them in, and I'm good to go. I know this is nothing real groundbreaking yet about training, but this is a massive thing to understand. I'm sure, Dave, you understand just business. If you got everything organized, you just wake up and everything's good to go. You just take a little bit of time each day, right? And get it done. Okay. Also, I have the in-season's already been planned, 10 weeks, not counting the playoffs, already planned. I already have the off-season completely planned. I always say you gotta have a plan, and you got to be willing, always have a plan B. For example, we got guys who are hurt, right? You guys play football, right? I always tell the kids it's 100% injury potential. You will get hurt. If you accept that playing football, it's the greatest thing ever, because you know you're gonna get banged up, all right? And I don't mean like a broken finger or something. I'm talking about, you know, shoulders, you know, torn off, your neck effed up, concussions these days, right? That's all everyone talks about. So I have a contingency plan for all those guys. They already know what they're doing. It's taken care of. Woo, yeah. So always have a plan B, or at least have an out. I'll give you an example. The way we structure our training, we really, at this point during the in-season for our guys who play, we have our main lifts are the bench and the squat. Now, if a guy comes to me and says, hey, my legs are a little tired or whatever, all we do is slightly manipulate the program just a little bit. We don't have to change the numbers, we just change the reps. It's a very simple, instead of doing 5 sets of 5, for example, we'll just do 3 sets of 3. Now you don't have to change your entire program, okay? That's one of the great things about how I set up the program. As it's evolved over the years, if you want more volume, you can do it. If you want less volume, you can do it. So now we just have to work within a certain amount of parameters. And it just makes, for me, we talk about controlling what we can control. I always think, how do I put this? Again, it's like the chaos. If I can control the training a little bit, it's very black and white with me in a lot of areas. If I can control that, then we can control the whole workout. All right. Don't worry, I'll get to the training. All right, and this is one of the main points I had to discuss with the coaches. When you talk to football coaches, or any coach really, they always have this preconceived notion of training for sports and what they need or what they think the kids need or whatever. When you're training for multiple disciplines, for example, any athlete needs, give me some things that an athlete needs physically: strength, speed, endurance, agility. That's what you said, right? That's what you said, agility, mobility. All right, at the very least, you need to be conditioned, strong, and pretty mobile, at the very least. Because we have all these things going in, you have to do the least amount possible on each area to make gains, and no more. And you can always see where a strength coach gets where his experience is. For example, if Dave and I were 15 years ago, if we were coaching a football team, we'd just be lifting all the time, right? Because that's all we know, screw it. All right. But as you get older and you start to realize how training really revolves with balance, that's one of my huge principles now, is understanding balance, is you can't do so much that it takes away from something else. Now it sounds like, oh yeah, I do that all the time, but how many people here in the last year have done 365 workouts of mobility for 10 minutes? Now, do you guys think you need that? But how many people have really done that? You know, if you take a cross-country coach, how much strength training have they done in the last 12 months? Very little. As a power lifter, how much aerobic conditioning have you done to facilitate heart health and recovery? How much do you think you really need, though? Who's a power lifter here? You look like you're jacked. How much cardio do you really need to be a power lifter?
Twice a week, 30 minutes.
All right. So let's say, what did you say that again?
Twice a week, 30 minutes.
Twice a week, 30 minutes. I would probably say three times a week, 30 minutes. Does that really cut into anything? No. It's just a matter of doing it, right? It's like you ever read diet articles, and they're all pretty much the same thing, right? I mean, dismissing like the kooks, right? But how many people here know, in general, what healthy eating is? Just in general, raise your hand. Come on. Even I know, and I eat like shit. How many people eat healthy all the time? All the time. So you guys know what to do, right? But you always do it? All right, so just understand that when you're training an athlete, or if you know, I know CrossFit's pretty big now. I assume it's still pretty big. You don't need to go balls in the wall on every little thing to make progress at it. And it's especially important because what ends up happening is, for example, say someone pushes the prowler 6 days a week. Do you really need to push the prowler 6 days a week to get good at the prowler? But what ends up happening if you push it 6 days a week is your squat and deadlift start screwing up, right? So there's ways to make progress without overdoing it, all right? All right, does everyone have any questions yet? Come on, anything? There's no way. How many people are here, like 50, 60? No questions? You got a big beard, you can ask a question. You know, I wear glasses too, but my face is so fat that I can't get away with it. All right, what's the...